this flag, right, FSSL, just sharing while everyone is like running this command. So the first flag, right, is F, fail silently. It means like if the whole command is like kind of doesn't work right, it will not like output all the messy like system error messages inside your terminal. And then S stands for silent. It does something similar as well, which is to prevent any output of any error messages along the way, not the final message. That's what I understand, the difference between F and S. And then the big S, it means show error. So this flag is about explaining the error if it really fails. So even though you don't see the error messages, right, you will still eventually get to know like what went wrong with the command. And then big L is location. So in case like this whole URL, right, the location of this file, the installation script, kind of like move to another URL, another IP address. The big L flag, location, it tells code to go to the new location to install it, or more like to download that installation script to your computer. And then definitely the pipe function, we transfer the output of this command into our bash, our shell, so that the installation will run directly. We just run the installation script automatically after getting it from the URL. So let me know in the chat once you have run the command. I can't stop talking in my command. Is there any other alternative way? Okay. If that's the case, you can't install Docker. Oh, okay, that's quite interesting. Then I think just for Love AI come, right? Then you don't need Docker. You can just install OpenClaw directly. So back to that code command that I'm showing here, just run this inside of terminal. So the only difference is that you can use OpenClaw as well, just that it's not as safe as using Docker. So that's the only difference. So feel free to just go ahead, with the installation. It's fine as well without Docker. All right, so once you have the command inside, you have run the command, right, the code command, just let me know inside the chat how things are going. Because I've already installed OpenClaw, so I'm not running this again. But what you see inside the terminal, inside your terminal, there will be a series of questions. Right, so as what we have here inside the README file. So when we go through the wizard with the code command, there will be questions about how you want to configure your OpenClaw CLI. So definitely, as we go along the questions, you have to accept the risks in order to even install OpenClaw in the first place. And usually we choose Quick Start. We choose Quick Start for the onboarding. I've never chosen any other thing besides Quick Start. So I guess most people just choose Quick Start. Okay, and this is a very important thing. You will be asked to choose your model provider. Does this show after running the command? Yep. So after you run the code command, you will be guided through a series of questions to ask you about how to configure your OpenClaw agent. So let me know what you see. If there are any error messages with, the question didn't come up for me. Okay. That's quite interesting. So it's like, oh wow, okay. That's cool. Well, that's fine as well. I think, wait, did you run curl or did you run npm? Because if it's npm, then there will be no questions. npm will only put OpenClaw in your computer path as a path variable. So it won't go through the questions. But then again, because these questions are really onboarding, right? You can always go back to these questions when you're free, like just put additional configurations inside the files. So you can always do this later. Yeah, so that's how npm works. Okay. But if anyone is going through the questions right now, please let me know. Because definitely there are some things that I want to go through with you guys for the questions. Where, for example, like what I'm highlighting here in the README file, the model provider. So definitely OpenClaw, right? Because it's an agent running on AI, you need the brain for OpenClaw. You need a model to power your OpenClaw in your computer. And this model, it can come from any model. It can be OpenAI, Anthropic, DeepSeek, or even your own locally run model, OLlama in your computer. So it will give you a lot of choices inside the terminal when you go through the questions. And for this workshop, I will be giving out my API key to Mistral AI. So it's free for me as well. I got this like free credits from a hackathon to use this Mistral API key. So I'm just like giving out for free as well for this workshop. But definitely is I think I'll just like maybe cancel this tomorrow. Yeah, so just for anyone who doesn't have like any access to a third party LM provider, or you don't even have OLlama as well. So to make sure that everyone doesn't get blocked at this stage, like for defining your model provider, I'll give my API key if anyone needs it inside the chat later. All right, so just let me know if you need a model. But if no one is going through the questions, then that is really good. Then these questions you can skip for now. I think just a quick like scan through as well. Channel, right? You can also define like the channel that you interact with OpenClaw. I'm not sure if you like watch any like Instagram reels before or like videos online, like how people use Telegram, WhatsApp, to interact with OpenClaw. So this is where we define a channel. So if you go through the questions, you can also define a channel to be Telegram, for example, and then it will show you the steps also for using OpenClaw on Telegram. Then you can just give the instructions on Telegram. And then there will be further configuration for skills if you want to, the tools that your agent can use. For now, we'll just skip this as well. Okay, so we'll be using a Docker gateway inside the container. Right, so as mentioned before as well, if you are already running OpenClaw locally, a local gateway, that's what we call it, make sure to stop it. So definitely, if you already have OpenClaw, you also have this command as well, which you can run. OpenClaw gateway stop. So this stops your gateway from running on port 18789, and then you will free this port for running your gateway on Docker. So this is only for those who already have OpenClaw, and you need to stop it. Then you can just run this command. In fact, if you already have OpenClaw, I don't know why you're in this workshop lah, but very happy to have you here as well. Anyway, so this is just to prepare for the gateway to run inside the container. Right, so yeah, if you use npm or npm to install OpenClaw, right, then there will be no questions asked lah. But you can always configure your answers to those questions after the installation. All right, so you can verify whether you have successfully installed OpenClaw -- version. All right, so just verify it. All right, so my version right now is 2026.4.2. I'm not sure what is your version because OpenClaw is changing very quickly. Like they have a lot of updates. So this is my version for now. But if you're not that far away from my version, that should be okay. If you want to update as well, you can always run OpenClaw update. I think that is the command to update your OpenClaw CLI. All right. So just that one command to verify your CLI, whether you have installed it, and check the version. Okay, and now we go to the .env file. So like what I'm showing here in the README file. So step 3, after we have installed OpenClaw CLI, right? Because we are using a container, so we will configure the environment inside the container. And so we use an environment file, .env file. So you just need to create your own .env file from the .env.example file. So you can just run this command or just copy and paste the .env file, the .env.example file to make your own .env file. So it's actually not a lot of environment variables that we need for a basic setup of OpenClaw inside the container. Inside the .env file, yeah, just like that. All right. So what are we having inside our .env file? First, it's about the LM. So definitely, because for any gateway at all, right? If you run it locally, if you run it inside a container, you need the brain. You need to give the brain to the agent. And so we need to set up the LM. Which model is it using? And the API key needed to access the LM. All right, so this is my API key. I'm not afraid to share with you guys because I might just cancel this tomorrow. I'm just going to copy and paste this LM API key for anyone who doesn't have it. So I'm using Mistral, by the way. As you can see over here that I'm showing. Mistral small latest. So we also need to define the specific model that we are using. If you're using any other model, OpenAI, Tropic as well, your model provider, all right, just refer to the documentation for your model provider and find the name of your model that you want to use and then put it inside LM model. And then the base URL. The base URL is basically the API URL that the API accesses for the API service. So usually for LM based URLs, it will be something like this /v1/chat/completions, but always refer back to the docs of your LM provider and see what is the correct URL path. So this is just for Mistral. Okay, wait, I'm not using this. I need to delete this. Okay, so just 3 things for LM: API key, base URL, and model. Right, you can also use this as well, just for today's workshop. I'll just share this inside the chat in case anyone doesn't have any access to any LM. So you can use my own API key. And don't worry to use it as well because I have enough credits for today's workshop. And also the name of the model. So again, just create your own .env file using the .env.example file and then put inside these variables. And so we are giving the brain to the OpenClaw agent. And then, like what we covered earlier as well, this is what we put inside the .env file. So require exec approval true. So this is a standard environment variable for OpenClaw. We define it to be true. Right, and that's actually our .env file. So that's it for .env. Okay, so like what we shared as well just now, all the environment variables, what are they for? Okay, and then now we go to the OpenClaw.yaml file. So for a container environment, we will set up the OpenClaw environment for the agent to know like where is its workspace, like the files, the folders that it can access. Yep. Yeah, so when you go through the questions, right? Yeah, Aisha. So you choose Mistral AI lah for the question. If you want to use my model lah, yeah, if you want to use my API key, then yeah, choose Mistral when they ask you in those questions. But then again, you can always change it in the configurations after all these questions. We can always change our models. Even use an open source model as well, DeepSeek or the OpenAI's GPT-4 mini, feel free to use it as well. Or even Gemini. I think the best one is 2.5 Flash or something for open source. Question that my node version was updated. IT account has questions. Okay, so I think you need to update your node first, I think. Yeah, so if you want to use npm to install, then your Node.js, you need to have Node.js and npm, yeah, to run it. Let me know if you can't install using Node. All right, so just interrupt me when you're there. Okay, so for container environment, we will also have OpenClaw.yaml file. So this is the configuration file for the OpenClaw environment. So in the root repo, the repo root, right? So just next to the README file, there's this OpenClaw.yaml file. So this is the configuration for OpenClaw. And inside this YAML file, we specify a number of things inside for the environment. So there is this agent, which is basically the program that runs the task that we give it. So the name is actually just an arbitrary name. You can name it anything you want. And then this is very important, the system prompt file. So we just point it to the file inside our repo, right? The file that we looked into earlier, the core directive.md file. Oh yeah, but before that, notice that the file path is different from what we see inside our repo here. The core directive file, right? It's inside prompts folder, right? It's inside our prompts folder, but here it's /app. And why is this so, right? It's because Docker containers, they map our folders to new locations inside the container. And I'm just going to skip through. I'm just going to go to the Docker compose file for now. So we have the YAML file for OpenClaw, right? We also have a YAML file for the container. So this is the file that sets all the settings for the container. So what it does basically, it's to define all the locations inside the container. Where do all our files, right, inside this repo, right, are located inside the container. So it's something that we call volumes. So this is also some further knowledge about how Docker containers work. To run a container, we need to put these files inside our repo, right, into some location inside the container. And so, for example, we put our agent workspace folder, right? So this is a folder inside our repo here. agent workspace. We put this inside a location called /workspace. So we put this location inside /workspace. This is inside the container. And then we give read-write access. RW stands for read-write. So you can see the basic syntax, right? The format of the whole line is basically the folder path inside our repo /agent workspace. So this is the path inside our repo. And then colon. You can think of it as like a separator, colon, and then path inside the container. So inside the container, right, there will be a folder called workspace. And this folder is basically the same thing as the agent workspace folder inside our repo. So now there are two environments right now. One environment is the container. One environment is our repo. And to remind again, why are we doing this? Why we have two environments is because we are sandboxing. We are separating our container from our entire computer. We are creating a new environment, a small controlled environment inside our computer for agent to live in. And so we are mapping. We are mapping all our folders inside this repo into new locations inside the container. And then we control what can the agent do with this folder. So for this workspace, and write access are the part of this whole sense is about access. So you cannot write anything to anything inside this folder or file. And what you can see here clearly, why is this unique? Because this is the config file. This is the OpenClaw config file, OpenClaw.yaml. We are putting the config file right into this folder /add. So this is a folder inside the container. Folder is not inside our repo here, but it's inside the container. We are mapping our config file right into this folder called app. So for any Docker container, if anyone doesn't have any background with Docker containers, there will always be this file, dockercompose.yaml. So dockercompose.yaml file is the config file for running containers. We define how our files are located inside the container, which files are located. And we also define the environment variables. So jail is basically the sandbox environment, basically the container environment. And we also get our environment variables, the LM variables, from our .env file. So we transfer the secrets into our container as well. Okay, so that is basically what we should know about the Docker Compose file. I won't go through everything inside the Compose file. Basically, most importantly, we need to know what is needed to do. Mapping our repo files, our repo folders here, the local files, into the container. And also take note that whatever the agent does inside the container, so like inside this workspace folder, inside this app folder, everything that the agent does inside the container, right, it affects the actual files inside this repo as well, because we are mapping it. We map it inside the container, and that's why with this read-write access, it can also change the files in that repo. But the good thing is that all the files in our computer, right, that we are not putting inside the container, the agent cannot do anything to it. So the agent can only change things that we map into the container. So that is the purpose of the Docker Compose file. We config the container environment. So back to the OpenClaw YAML file. Now that we have the Docker Compose file ready, we then define the paths for the OpenClaw environment. So the prompts for the rules, right? The policies for OpenClaw to follow it will be the core directive file that we have already, and we put inside the app folder inside Docker container. So this is the config for OpenClaw environment. So one of the files is definitely the prompt file. And then next up also definitely the LLM settings, the LLM environment. So we also get this from our .env file. So these are all the environment variables from our .env file. Provider, API key, base URL, and model. And then this one also from our .env, require exec approval. So what we defined earlier in the .env file basically, and the Docker compose file, we are combining them all into the OpenClaw.yaml file to set up the OpenClaw environment in the container. And the skills as well. We define the skills that the agent can use through the local file IO file. So we also config the agent to go to this file to know what it can do. And this file is inside the /app/skills folder. This is also a folder inside the container. And then lastly, logging is just for auditing, for observability, records of what the agent does. And this is also a folder inside the container. So this is also a quick overview of what YAML files do, in case anyone doesn't have experience with YAML files. Right, so markup language is all about setting the environment, the configuration for something. So for YAML files, they define the structure, they define the settings for some environment. All right, so I'm going to continue from here. Once we have the environment configured, right, because this is step 3. Step 3, configure environment. We have the Docker compose YAML file. We have the OpenClaw YAML file. Both YAML files defined. And also definitely security side also taken care of. We then go to step 4. We start the Docker container. And again, just to remind again, we are running the gateway inside Docker container, not in the entire computer. So step 4, we start the sandbox. Sandbox basically again, it's just another fancy term for Docker container for jail environment. So we want to build the Docker file. Right, Docker file is basically like this file in our repo root. So you will see this as well whenever you are dealing with Docker containers. So you will build a file, right, from the YAML files, from the Docker compose YAML file. You will build this Docker file to kind of like provide the instructions for the container to run. And so, by the way, it's like if you can see as well in the Docker file, you see that it will also install its container. So you will run OpenClaw in a secluded Docker container. That's why you can see this, right? Install it only is UI, the terminal UI, not the gateway. So yeah, we'll run in Docker. So before we start the gateway in Docker, again, if you're already running OpenClaw locally, you already have a local gateway, you have to stop it first. So you can't be sharing the same port. So you can run OpenClaw gateway stop to stop any existing running of OpenClaw on your computer. So this only for those who already have OpenClaw and are running it as a local gateway. All right. So otherwise, when there's nothing listened anymore on the same port, okay, we can also run this to see if there is anything else there. Okay. Otherwise, it is safe for the Docker gateway to be on that port. All right. And then it will be time for us to build the container. So we use this command called compose to run the stack of the container. So make sure that you are in the repo root, the root of this repo. And then we're going to run this command. Okay, so I've run this already. It's your turn to run this, but I can show you the output of what you see. Okay. After you run this command. Okay, so everyone can run this command. Docker compose up flag D, flag build. So Docker will start building your container. Do I still have the output for this? Yeah, okay. You see something like this. Quite a long terminal output. Right, so when you run Docker compose up flag D, flag build, it will build the container along with the image inside it. Basically, we don't need to read through the output messages. They are all yeah, so you don't need to know everything here. All right, once it's finished building, you will see this green message, built and then started. Oh yeah, by the way, it's like before you compose the container, definitely you have to run the app. So I'm just going to stop my screen and then share the container app, Docker app. Right, so like what I shared earlier just now. So make sure that your Docker is also up and running. You can see at the bottom left. So you have to just run the platform on your computer. And you can see on the bottom left that it says engine running. Yeah, so you need to get this up and running first before you run the command compose. And also if you are using WSL like me, which is that you are the Linux WSL, in case you're not using that, you need to go to, where is it again? Settings. So go to settings and general extension. Okay, resources, settings, and then resources, and then go to WSL integration. Okay, WSL integration, and then you have to take enable integration with your WSL, and then only you can run Docker with WSL. Doesn't know. WSL is basically the for use Linux commands. Use the Linux OS. Available. Some Linux commands not available in those. That's why we use this system. For example, maybe we use AWS infrastructure like cloud platforms. there are some commands that need to use Linux instead of Windows, and so we use WSL to interact with it. So this is only for those who are running Docker using WSL. Make sure to choose this, enable integration inside Docker, and then only you can run the engine and you can run the compose command. It will take some time actually for the Docker container to get set up and running. The build part definitely will take some time. You will see like the total number of seconds that it takes. But after it's done building, it will run, and then you'll see the container over here. So your main page, right, in the Docker application, your dashboard, you'll see the container up and running over here. So this is Docker. I'll go back to the cursor IDE. Any problems with running the Docker command, inside the tab. Okay, going back to my IDE. Okay. Okay, so that is the compose command. Right, so like what we covered earlier as well, when we run the command to build the container, it will start mapping all the folders and files in our local repo here to locations inside the container. So it's something called mounted. The whole process is called mounting. We mount the folders and files onto the container. And so this workspace, agent workspace folder, this will be the kind of like the habitat of the lobster, the living environment of the lobster. We will define the scope, the limits that it can do within this environment. So it's like a jail, sandbox, container. They all mean the same thing. Okay, and we've gone through this as well. Skills, prompts, logs. All these folders in our local repo, they all get mapped into the container, mounted into the container. All right, so once it's successfully running the container, Docker on your desktop, your computer, we can also check the status, the health of the container. So I'm just going to Docker compose ps, run this command. PS, it basically means process status. So it's used to check the status of your container. And it's not just one container, but all the containers, right, that you ever started using the compose command that are still live on your computer. So you can check all the containers that you've ever started using the compose command. All right, so okay, it's kind of messy because of the font size. I'm just going to like make it smaller. Yeah, all right. So the container name, OpenClaw Workshop Agent. Right, so if it's smaller on Google Meet, I think you can zoom in on Google Meet to see the text. Right, so container name, OpenClaw Workshop Agent. So these are all actually defined in our Docker compose.yaml file. Yeah. So in our Docker compose file, right, whenever we build the Docker container, right, it will always refer to the Docker compose file, right? So because Docker compose, right, that is the config file for the compose command. What the compose command needs to know when it builds the container. And so the container name is OpenClaw Workshop Agent. So as what we see here, the name is, OpenClaw Workshop Agent. Yeah, and then service as well, we are following what we have put, OpenClaw Agent. Again, it's just some arbitrary name. Otherwise, if you can see this, that means it's all good. It's up and running healthily. So that's good to know. Docker compose PS. Okay, and these are just further instructions for checking if the container is running. So these are just basically instructions for going into the container, right? Because again, container is a different environment from our computer. And so you have to go into the container. And we do that through exec, right? Docker execute. So go run a program inside the container. And then you can even put a shell inside and run a shell command inside the container. So create files, delete files inside the container. And that will also affect the files, right, mapped to our local repo. But again, these are just for checking if the container is running. So not that relevant for today. I'll just skip this. Okay, then this one also just confirming if the gateway is already running. So when we actually build the container and we run it, when you see inside your Docker app, right, that the container is already running, that also means that your OpenClaw gateway is also running already on your port 18789. Yeah, I'll just make it bigger back. Right, so when you run the Docker container, right, your OpenClaw gateway is also already running 18789. In fact, if you want to check the logs for the container building, you can see that it also ran like run npm install, right? So where I'm inside the terminal output, when it's in the container, it's also running the OpenClaw gateway. So and also creating the OpenClaw directory inside the container /app/.openclaw. And so this is what we achieve with a container. We put everything, right, the entire OpenClaw environment inside the container. And this is one of the safe ways to use OpenClaw. Okay, so that is building and running the container. We started to okay. Yeah, and also by the way, it's like this particular part that I'm showing here in the README file. Yeah, so I think there are some differences with the Node installation, your Node.js. I think you need to have like a particular version of Node.js in order to even run the container properly, I think. The image problem. Yeah, Node 22. Yeah, so for those who are using Node.js for running the Docker container. And once we have the container up and running, then we can start the TUI. So again, TUI is the terminal UI. And so for, who's that again? Love AI come, right? Yeah, so for people like you, without the Docker container, you can just go straight to this step. Just that you are giving your OpenClaw agent access to your entire computer without the container. Okay, so you can just start the TUI. Okay, but for our case, we will start the TUI, but it is connected to the gateway inside Docker. Okay, I'm just gonna make the font smaller a bit. Okay. So once the Docker container is up and running, we will run this command, OpenClaw TUI, to get the TUI running inside our terminal. OpenClaw TUI. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I think there's some uh, quick bugs over here. So basically, if we run OpenClaw TUI, it will start the interactive session with the OpenClaw agent. And then you will just type inside your prompts for the OpenClaw agent here, and then it will start running files, running the task that you prompted to do based on the skills that we define. Yeah, I think I'm just going to debug this a bit quickly. Anyway, everyone can try a bit. You can just run OpenClaw TUI, and then it will open up the terminal interaction with the OpenClaw agent. Okay, I'll stop sharing for a while and fix the bugs. Better not, too risky. Oh, okay, let me get my other laptop. Yeah, sure, sure. All right, everyone can try as well. Running OpenClaw TUI, and let us know in the chat as well what you see, uh, what surprises you. In the meantime, I'll fix some bugs over here as well. Hey, hi everyone. Sorry. So I just wanted to like debug what's going on for my terminal output. Yeah, so I think for now there's still some problems. So I would like just delay everybody's time again. So definitely after we run the container, then we can just use the TUI command to open up the TUI to interact with the OpenClaw agent. So that is at step 5. Step 5, we use this command, right? We use this command to open up the interaction inside the terminal. It was actually up and running, I think a few hours before this workshop. I tested again, but I think right now, I think due to some changes, I think inside the code, then kind of like broke. But yeah, it's quite fragile. So right now it's not working for now, but you can try this after this workshop. This also recorded. You can refer back to this workshop again, and you can run this as well whenever you have the time at home. So container and then GUI. So these are the two things that you need to interact the agent. And then once you have the terminal, right, you can just run any prompt. So for now, we will just test out like reading and writing files for step 6. Again, I can't show it anymore for now because there are some bugs right now. So you can try this anytime when you're free. So you can write anything. This is like just a simple prompt for writing a file. So when you ask the agent to write a file and then save it, when it saves inside the container, this file also appears in your local repo. So inside our local repo, this folder, agent workspace, because we define this folder to be the workspace folder of the agent in our Docker Compose file. Right, so the workspace, right, is slash workspace, which is our agent workspace folder inside our repo. So anything, any file, right, any file that it does, reads or writes, it will all be stored inside this workspace folder. And because it's mapped to the agent workspace folder in our local repo, it will also be saved inside the agent workspace folder. So that is how the sandbox environment works, making sure that the agent will only access the files and folders that we give it access to inside the environment. Yep. I guess that's the end for today. If I'm able to show some video demo, I will share with it in WhatsApp once that is successful. Yeah, so just beginning to fix some of the bugs for now. So thanks for everyone for joining this workshop. I'll share the recording as well in our drive folder of the workshop recordings. Thanks everyone. Bye bye.